So we're here with Tim Foy at the Nelson Room, and we are in the West End of Toronto, and we are at a very secret location, in a very gorgeous, beautiful secret location, very picturesque, and it reminds me of that. You ever seen that recent viral video last year where the guy's doing a BBC broadcast from his house and his kids
awesome.
come in?
Incredible.
So good. And any parent.
No, it's
their stomach curls a little watching.
It's like kabuki theater. You could pinpoint too many beautiful moments in it,
Yeah.
and it was analyzed
so
over
good.
and over again because there's just so many.
Good.
Just falls apart so gorgeously.
The wife crawling on the floor,
and then the kid walking in with the kind of proud.
My
It was
gosh.
glorious. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think any parent, especially work from home parent, it was like frame it and put it on the wall.
Oh, totally.
Such a great story.
Yeah.
Anyway, I said that because Tim's family just came home now, but
Good looking bunch.
we'll add that to the bonus features. So here we are in the Nelson Room. Where'd that name come from?
There's nothing worse than trying to name a studio.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that.
And there were multiple things being thrown around. I'd ask friends. Either I'd get jokes or I'd get names that just sounded like they're just too pretentious.
Yeah.
My
Lots
wife
of
came up with a
puns.
good name because this used to be an old stable back at the turn of
Okay.
the century.
Yeah.
And she said, what about calling it Equus? At the beginning, there's an EQ at the beginning.
Oh, yes.
And I went, oh, Equus, equine, okay.
Yeah.
But then there's that play about the troubled boy who stabs horses in the eyes and has relations
Everyone
with them.
knows that
And I said,
one.
I don't often necessarily want to tie that
Sure.
image to.
Yeah.
And so I just said, well, there's no name. The hell with it. And I was sitting here with a producer friend of mine and Derek Downham, very talented guy, and we just were joking around that you feel like when you come into this room, perhaps everyone should be wearing ascots, and it had a sort of a old gentleman's club
Right,
vibe
yes,
to it,
that's
and with the red and all that.
Yeah.
And I said we should call it the Charles Nelson Riley Appreciation Society. And then we found that funny, and I've had this habit of making jokes part of my serious life, which is always a mistake.
Always.
Never do it. You regret it later. Either way, this one kind of worked out. So we called it the Nelson Room.
Wow, that's good.
After
I like that.
Patron saint.
How come we don't have cigars or pipes right now?
I'm working on it. I'm trying to find a dispenser, a machine.
I think gear lasts so much longer these days because people don't smoke in the control
plus
rooms
it's a
anymore.
terrible habit. Don't start, kids.
Well, there's so much that we're going to talk about today. We're actually planning it, and I don't know if we'll get to everything. But before we do, tell us where we're at and talk to us about the build a little bit, because we are again in a coach house, and this is one of our maybe third or fourth coach houses. And as we were saying off camera, it's very common for cities, and iCity in Hamilton here in Toronto, to have these really cool coach houses 20 feet back from the house.
Yeah.
So talk to me about this place.
I heard that this house was available, and a coach house that was already rebuilt beautifully, and I came and checked it out. Wasn't really in the market of selling my house that I had lived in before, but always really wanted this space. As a composer, we all know, we've lived through a lifetime of basements and dingy spaces that weren't.
And that's where you were in before in your previous house?
I mean, I had a killer studio at King and Spadina that my writing partner and I were paying too much money for.
Right.
We dumped that after a handful of years and after pouring, too much dough into it.
Sure.
And then I worked from home primarily, and surprisingly, the results were great. It was in the basement somehow. A room that shouldn't have worked was working for me.
Yeah.
But I thought, and I knew kids were on the horizon, and Marshall stacks and baby snacks do not mix. So
it's a great T-shirt.
So I said, I gotta rent a space.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so you rent a space. You put I've done this before, you put a lot of money in trying to control the sound, try and get a good place that sounds good inside the room, and you're just pissing dough away.
Yeah,
and
it's not your place.
when I was talking to the guy, good friend of mine, the guy who ended up building the space, he just said, if you're going to be here for 10 years minimum, look at how much that's going to cost you to rent and build, and it worked out to the cost of this.
Totally.
So it made sense.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so we're in a coach house. You said originally this was a print house?
This was a company,
studio,
and the couple were sort of like, the kids had moved out of the house, and they went, why don't we just no kidding, literally, they live in a VW van now,
nice.
traveling across, and they do all the design work in that.
Oh, wow.
And it's amazing. And so they were selling the house, and I said, and then they took it off the market, and I said, I'll wait till it goes back on the market, and then It's a convoluted story, but somehow I managed to slightly overpay at the time to convince them to get the place because I really ran through the house. Went, it's a house, big deal. Came out here, saw this, and went, whoa, called the studio friend. He just did the same thing, walked out and just said, buy it.
Yeah.
You're not going to find this anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially, like, you'll find this
because they had
with
done
so many problems.
Right, and they've done the legwork.
Yeah, they put $100,000 into it.
Wow.
Big HVAC unit in there. Everything was perfectly plumb. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect space.
Well, and it's beautiful. I don't know what Jay's got up front, but it's like a nice little like downtown cafe.
It's silly.
It's so good.
It's silly. These people had great taste and deep pockets. So they did a nice job.
And you really benefited from it. Yeah. I love the windows too. Like, you know, and you've got some windows up here, but I just love that about it because even a coach house can kind of feel like a basement sometimes if it's not built properly. So
totally.
I mean, light, I think, is a big deal.
It's like 800 square feet. There are 13 and a half, almost 14 high-foot ceilings.
Right.
And of course, when you build up and build a room in within a room, that shrinks.
Right.
You know, you should have seen this place before this. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
Band rehearsals were great. The things were, but
it's such a good space. It's like goes all the way up there in my top favorite space.
It's silly.
So beautiful.
It's silly. Thanks,
so
man.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, I was really happy with it. The guy who built it, he did an incredible job.
There's a fine line between a really beautiful aesthetic, but then crazy toys. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, because gear is not always pretty. It's pretty to us, but like, it doesn't always fit this like fancy aesthetic. But you've got the perfect hybrid here.
Yeah. No. Well, if I'm going to spend a vast majority of my hours in a day.
Yeah, that's true.
Working out here.
Being creative.
It's got to be, I mean, that's the one thing about it. If you've got a guy building your room who is also a musician, he's going to understand the flow and how you work.
Right.
So, we spent time working that out and it worked out great.
Totally. Yeah. So, Tim, what do you do in here? What's some of your roles?
I write music for television, primarily animation, cartoons. Done it for over 20 years.
Wow.
And been really fortunate in the industry.
Did you always want to write music for kids shows as a kid? Watching cartoons thinking, I want to make those songs?
I was left alone by my parents during my most formative years, allowing me to, I was playing in bands like we all were forever and got to be, touring across Canada and the States, and I got to be about 24 and went, ooh, this probably better think of something else because I'm living in a van. And I met a guy, Paul Kaufman, and we just got together and he came over to my place, had a, sort of a makeshift studio with a bunch of gear. He had some gear. We piled it together. We said, you know what, we could write music for the Weather Channel. They paid like $100, and so
those are great songs.
The first thing we did was a Tim Hortons commercial. That sort of thing that happens when you're young and you're just brash. And you go, gosh darn it, we're awesome, even though you're not awesome. Yeah. And we just convinced people, to let us into the party, and they didn't find out for a while that we didn't really, you don't do what everyone else is doing because you're doing your own thing. Yeah. So that sounds really fresh. Yeah. And we just learned and learned. And then from that, we got a live action series with Nelvana. Yeah. From that, got a cartoon, and then boom.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Got to redo the whole thing.
Got to redo that. That was bad. That was a real clunker. Just didn't see it.
So
sorry, brother.
So is this room? I got the impression from people I was talking to, this is a room that's sometimes for hire, that people will come here to use it.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things that we're saying as a composer. You're often on your own,
right?
And unless you're bringing in live players all the time, which gets very expensive. Right. Fortunately, budgets don't allow for that. Yeah. You're wearing all the hats. Right. So you're playing all the instruments, which, that's great. But after a while, you go, boy, I sure would like to see other people and see what they can bring to what you do. And that kind of synergistic kind of world was appealing. And the idea of moving into this area, being so close to the best part of Queen, so close to Ronceville. I mean, it really inspired, what I wanted to turn this place into, which was a studio where people could come in. And it wasn't all about like, okay, this is what I charge an hour, this is what we're doing, The composing stuff helps pay the bills and do this, and it allows me to bring other players in and kind of go, okay, you can finish the vocal tracks on your album,
Nice.
Hey, by the way, I'm working on this show. Would you mind singing on a couple of tracks?
Oh,
No,
nice.
for sure. And so
That's
we,
cool.
you know, not always the barter system,
Right.
but and it also allows you to, you know, but then producers would come in with their projects, and we from top to bottom do the whole album here.
Right.
And then, you know, all the years of working kind of as a composer / engineer.
Yeah.
You know, I'd never call myself an engineer, but you know, you know how to put a mic in front of something.
Yeah.
You know how these instruments sound,
Yeah.
and you have the kind of gear where you can make a great album.
Yeah.
And talented people make talented, great work, and all you have to do is just be, you know, semi-competent to capture it. Right?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
it's
that's not
great.
true. You have to be
So
fairly.
So an engineer could come in here,
Yeah.
rent this room to mix a record.
Yeah. There's a couple guys who do that.
Yeah.
A couple mastering guys who use it. There's very talented mix engineers.
Yeah.
You know, I'm never call myself a mix engineer. That's the one thing. It's like the studio designer had a great analogy when I said, "Yeah, I think I'm going to really hone my mix skills," and he went, "Oh, Tim, no, don't." I said, "What are you talking?" He said, "Look, just because you open a 5-star restaurant, it doesn't mean you're going to get just because you open a restaurant doesn't mean you're going to get a 5-star rating.
Right,
You know what
right.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's the kind of
Yeah.
years of apprenticeship.
Totally.
And after a certain age, you're just too young.
Yeah.
You're too old
Yeah.
to do it, to get that information.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, I want to talk about some of the gear here. So, first of all, this screen is, I've never seen anything like this. What is this? What is this called? Is this meant for
This
your?
is- you
type
know what?
of
I
work?
think this is ideally suited for gamers.
Oh yeah.
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 And now I'm starting. LG is really putting it in. This is an LG one, and they're
Right.
now making a 4K one. It's really
beautiful.
pricey, but you know you don't need 4K for, you know,
Yeah.
your DAW.
Yeah.
I was always, you know, at 22, 24 inches, and you know, you've got so much stuff spread out, even with a second screen,
Yeah.
to have it all there and be able to kind of do a lot of editing work, which I do when you're recording anything,
Right,
you know,
right.
bands or your own stuff for television, and it allows you to kind of put everything on the screen as you need it.
Because if you're doing television, wouldn't you be doing a long?
Yeah, see, this
Section
way you're
of
seeing
tracks?
the whole cue and
Yeah.
previous cues,
Right.
and laying out and seeing what parts you can grab from other themes that you've built throughout the
nice.
score and
Nice.
drag it along. And it's just, and what I love so much is how this desk is. We'll get to that eventually, but the ergonomics of this desk. I was initially going to go with an SSL Matrix 2, but the depth of it made the screen too far away. That's the other thing about these,
Right.
you know, having big mixing consoles
Yeah.
and stuff. So much of our lives now is the screen this close to your face.
Yeah.
So you've got these big arms and this ugly, you know, thing,
Yeah.
or you're off to the side, and you're not really. So this really affords you the opportunity to really
So cool.
plant your face right into the screen.
I got to look into this. I mean, it's
and
really
they're
neat.
pretty reasonably priced
Right.
nowadays. Yeah,
Are there monitors, not TVs, right? They're just
monitors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I want to hop back over to composing for children's music.
Yeah.
Generally, and I unfortunately have to listen to some of your
I
colleagues'
apologize.
work
No, I apologize.
on a daily basis. But I will say there are some stuff where it's nice. You know who I got to give props to is the people at Curious George on PBS, because it's all jazz. It's
did
just
that?
it's very nice and
Oh
relaxing.
no, it's great. And there's I
Beautiful.
just saw one called Peg plus Cat, and that guy did Wonder Pets, and that was all opera.
Oh, really?
This guy's unreal, and the music's just every day I listen to stuff, and my jaw hits the floor.
Well,
the
I mean,
quality of the writing.
Kids don't care. It's not going to change. For me, it's
Yeah.
like, it's about pleasing the parents.
Right, for sure.
That's what I
But
think.
if it sucks, kids will tune out like that.
That's true.
If it's good, they're down.
But-
my 2-year-old this year just for the first time went Christmas, and it was Frosty and the Grinch,
Oh, yeah,
and man,
yeah,
I
same
am
with me,
forever
yeah.
singing those songs
Yeah.
to the point where I just want to.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, that's true. So, but I would always assume that music was made 100% in the box with MIDI and just fake instruments. But we're here with gorgeous equipment and a mini Moog. Like, how much of the kids' music is real instruments versus?
Well, I mean, the stuff that I do is if it's orchestral based. You've got to do it all in there. Occasionally you bring in a violinist or something because it needs that feel. But you've had Babar, you've had Little Bear, shows like that, where they would travel to Prague and do full orchestral stuff. Leslie Barber, who just got screwed by the Academy for the movie Manchester by the Sea.
Okay.
She's a Canadian composer, unreal.
Yeah.
And she did Little Bear, and that was all cellos and stuff, beautiful stuff. And Milan Kimlichuk, who's no longer with us, he was a monster at Elvana, and he did all their stuff. Frightening, dude. And that was all orchestral stuff. Roly-poly, Oli. So many guys do stuff. Jeremy at Canterbury is doing a bunch of off-the-floor orchestral stuff because he did Cuphead recently, which is a super cool 40s retro, 30s, 20s, don't know what era, but a super old-fashioned jazz. And the score is mind-boggling. And it's in a video game.
Wow.
And it's winning all the awards. People can't.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unreal.
And but the budgets probably don't allow for that. You're talking like a short little Netflix
if they want
series?
that, if they want that,
Yeah.
they're paying for it.
Oh,
and
wow.
they'll get it, yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
You can do it with that, for that.
I just always thought it would be just these sound libraries all pieced together.
Most of the time it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the sound libraries are mind-boggling good.
Well, it reminds me of when I first had kids, I picked up a couple Raffi records, which were actually recorded in Hamilton and in Toronto, these records.
Yeah.
And so they would have been children's musics from the 70s or 80s, probably 70s. And all the instruments are real.
Oh, for sure,
real
yeah.
acoustic. It sounds like a James Taylor record.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Kids music, like that's on CD and stuff, primarily is live stuff. Because you can get a lot of it's done in like people's apartments, and there's still great sounding tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Or they go into a nice studio and do the beds there, and then go to somebody's apartment and do the rest of it.
Oh, so fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this. Some of this great gear here. Okay, so there's so much that I want to talk about. We've talked about the screen a little bit here, and there's some really great analog gear. There's so much here. Can we talk about this central unit here? I've actually seen the XL desk. Kier used to have it. Yeah. And so I want to know what you do with that, but I also want to talk a little bit about this. I've never seen anything like this.
Right. Okay. So when the space was being built, Mark, the studio builder, he and I were trying to figure out what we were going to throw in here. An older desk? No, that doesn't work for somebody like me. I don't really need that. The Matrix, which would have been really cool, because with all this outboard gear, having it digitally controlled and routed and having that kind of patch band power was really cool. But again, like we said, it was just the footprint was too big. It was just going to keep the screen too far away. Then the idea of, and which is brilliant, which is what SSL did years ago, was that they realized not everybody needs a duality console or an AWS system for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they did this kind of Lego thing where they made their X-Desk and their expansion module, so you could have basically the identical signal path that's in their duality console, a super analog path. But what you don't have is you don't have their EQs, you don't have their compressor, you don't have the routing as powerfully, obviously, in those other consoles. But you have the identical signal, so you have this great super analog system digitally controlled with the nucleus. So what a duality is a nucleus with this, but with all the other stuff. And the Sigma, this summing mixer, is the brains and heart of the duality console. It actually even includes, having spoke to somebody at SSL recently, thinking of getting a separate monitoring rig so I can control it. I was like, oh God, I've got to reach all this way over. I said, no, I could just. So he said, actually, that's the exact same monitor that's in the duality. And I went, okay, why would I ever even not use that? And for someone who doesn't like paying a whole lot of attention to gain structure, this thing's great. So you can just shoot all your tracks out over 16 stereo pairs, push the hell out of it, get that nice little analog crunch. People who work on SSLs often, put the, I'm going to fumble this one, but there are some SSL consoles that don't have the automation, and you they're putting these in front or on the back end. I'm not sure where they'd be placing it, but basically, this works as their automation now. These systems, and so it's a completely analog rig, digitally controlled.
And how is the hardware patched in?
It's all patched in through all the mic ties and all the X come in through the back and go directly hardwired into all the pre's. And they all come in through a patch bay down here. And that feeds the X-Desk, and the Panda are fed into there as well. And they're all fed into the converter that feeds into the Sigma.
And so if you want to switch through it, patch through a compressor, you're doing it manually down there?
Down there.
Okay, okay, cool.
Full time's sake.
Yeah.
These are primarily used to just monitor, so I'm never ever monitoring through the card or the software at all.
Right.
It's all analog. So you're sitting out here and there's a band playing, and you're actually setting up, headphone mixes. Well, no, because I use another system.
The faders are just for monitoring.
They're just for monitoring.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it was a bit excessive, but then.
And what are these faders for?
And these faders control Pro Tools and Logic and all that, so the session's up. And
Yeah.
that way, it's still a tactile thing. I mean, before getting that, everyone's using their mouse. And even still, I do find myself still kind of grabbing the mouse on occasion. But when you're sitting there really digging into a mix, it's amazing to not have to look at the screen and you're sort of listening to panning positions rather than seeing how you've panned on the screen.
Totally.
And it's nice to even be able to draw in fades and automation using this.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
God,
That's a very powerful system. It comes with, honestly, really, if I was looking for a small rig where I didn't have to, I didn't need a whole bunch of external outboard gear, this thing alone is amazing. I mean, it's got 2 amazing SSL pre's in it, very usable.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can literally monitor and do everything through this thing. This could be your entire studio.
Wow.
If all you needed were like a couple of inputs and you just wanted to control your DAW beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Was this desk built custom for it, or
Come
is
on,
it
look at this. What do you think? I bought this off the street? No, the guy who built the studio.
This is
did
just so
this.
flush. It's
Okay,
just
let's talk
insane.
about the guy who built the studio
Sure.
first, just quickly. He's a master Swiss carpenter, psychopath from Switzerland, because he's Swiss, and he studied for years and years and worked under Philip Newell in England. In the 90s and figured out, how acoustics work, especially, for these kind of applications. And he then also did fine craftsmanship. I mean, it's cabinetry when living in England. So he's taken those 2 skills and made rooms like this now.
Wow.
So this is all solid cherry, all built perfect. I mean, gear just literally slides in. He's a very, very, very exacting,
Yeah, because
brilliant dude.
this is phenomenal.
Yeah. The room was built by Mark and 2 other guys, Tom Mullins and James Tanner. And he would continually come back in and out throughout the entire build, revise, going, Tim, I got you another 3 inches here. I got you another foot over here. I got you this. And just come in with materials, try them acoustically in the room, see how things worked out. And I mean, we'll talk about the ceiling eventually, but it's just.
That's great.
Okay, so back to the desk. Yeah, this is all super.
Okay, so can we hop over here? Let's talk about the Overstair. This is a brand that is getting really popular, really sought after. And I have been looking at something that they have, sort of like a tape emulation or something for your bus. But anyway, what is this here?
This is, again, like as it says, it's a saturator. And it's amazing on drums. So much material you put through it sounds great. Primarily on a drum bus. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Bought it from Ian at Union.
Union, okay.
And they recently had to borrow it back for a record that was being done there. So great guys.
Wow.
They can use whatever they want whenever they want it. And so, I grabbed that off them. And for the first little while, I went, whatever. I used it a bit. And I went, that's cool. But because, you got a project that's happening.
Right.
The revisions are always happening.
Yeah.
And so I went, I got to try it. And I never wanted to compare it to like the Decimator or any of the sound toy stuff.
Right.
Because it's like, it sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's something that happens in there that's really fabulous. Yeah, it's
This is a hugely popular name, Overstair. I mean, it's like
really
in the
great.
in the kind
MOS,
of secret
they have
world.
another thing
like
called the MAS.
Yeah.
Their compression stuff is fantastic. I haven't used it. People love it.
I really, and
I
they have
believe
some,
everything
like,
everyone
little
tells me.
distortion units. And
Yeah.
So this is, okay, a low cut here.
Yeah. Put these guys on.
And then what is this here? Like a resonance? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, you can that controls how much the resonance is being tweaked by the saturation.
Back, okay.
Yeah.
And then saturation, is that, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not even,
Saturation level. You have low and high cut, which is nice.
what's the blend and gain?
Blend
What does
is,
that
I
mean?
guess that's just sort of like,
like
you're
wet.
clean and
Okay, dry wet. Okay, cool. And then this just brings it back to the way it
You
came
can
in,
push the
kinda?
hell out of it. Or yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it
And
can-
how
it can do-
aggressive
it can
are
do-
you
It
with
can be
that?
super aggressive. I just did a show called the Pony Sitters Club, and it's a very gentle.
Those kids are going to
sweet
appreciate
song.
this
That was on,
saturator.
and that was on the drum bus, and it was a real big
I think
kind
the
of.
kids can hear that.
But it was like it's great because when you really crunch something like drums. And you kind of tuck them back, and it was all like acoustic, dum ba dum ba dum drumming.
Yeah.
It was with big Lumineers kind of style.
Yeah, yeah.
And that kind of tone worked beautifully in it because I had this big choral vocal thing happening.
That is really
I mean,
cool.
it wasn't, I wasn't grinding it, but it was...
So it's kind of different than trying to do something like that with a compressor, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not really compressing anything, in a way.
I guess
it's
you
just
are.
like the same as putting it into a tape machine.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not doing that same thing. It really
gotta
is just
hear that.
adding that hair and that crunchiness.
Can you show it to me before we leave?
Oh,
I
yeah.
gotta
No, we'll
hear
throw
it in
some stuff
action.
through it. You're like, whoa.
Distressor. That's the first time we've ever seen a distressor.
Where never even used it.
This is something we just talked about earlier today.
Yeah.
The Fatso, right?
Yeah.
But it's modded by Cush Audio.
Yeah.
And talk to me about that, because the last guys we talked to, they said they wanted 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah. Man, I wish I could be a lot more...
How is it
I've
different-
used it a
how is
bunch of
different than
times,
this?
man. It's more complicated. It's got a big manual, and I'm like, I don't know what that's doing. And then sometimes I've used it on things, and I'm like, oh, that's really great. Do I know what I'm doing?
Right.
No.
Right.
Do I know what it's doing? It's in the manual. I've
Yeah.
read it before. What it's emulating, it's really cool.
Roast, comfy.
I know, and it's like, man, it's one of those things like it's like, I'll get to that,
Spank.
man. One night I'm just gonna sit here and I'm really, and and then
Yeah.
there have been guys who come in here and use the room and go, oh, I love it. This is,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, okay. Want to tell me what you're doing with that?
Right.
The other very cool thing about it is there's an expression pedal on the floor, just an Ernie Ball expression pedal on the ground.
Okay.
Put that in the back, and you can actually blend it and actually give.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
now that in itself is the only reason how I'm able to use it and not ruin everything I put through it, because
Oh
it can
my
be super
gosh.
aggressive.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I need to spend more time with it.
What's this here with a little bit of a...
That's
SSL
TK
thing?
Audio. That is again a
audio.
G-Bus compressor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I had, when I got the Sigma, it came with the 500 series G-Bus compressor. And it was great and awesome and fantastic
Yeah.
and in a lot of ways transparent for
Yeah.
what I was doing, the blue thing. And a mastering engineer named Will was selling that, and we traded some other gear, and I got that for a really cheap price. And it's great because it allows for parallel compression effects.
Yeah, I know.
with
I
the
noticed
blend.
that.
It was every bit as good as the G-Bus compressor in my
Really?
to my ears. Yeah, I mean, it was like, come on.
Well,
And I have
Are they
that
still
on my
made
next
today?
bus.
You can
Yeah.
still buy them?
Oh yeah, and they're reasonably
Where are they
priced.
from?
I think they're like I did no idea. I'm going to say the Netherlands,
oh, no.
only because I want to say the word Netherlands.
That's fine.
No, I have no idea.
For the folks at home who are going to leave nasty comments about not knowing what we're talking about, this is the BC1 MK2, and it's TK Audio.
2K audio.
It looks really cool. It's laid out really unique.
Yeah, and I had we'll talk about him later, but a guy from Whitby Audio opened it up and just sort of take a look and prior to buying it and see whether or not I was just opening a box of, strings and cheese. And he
Shreddies.
was like, well, the design here is okay, and this is good. Oh, actually, this is really good. This is what,
Yeah.
how much you want for it? It's a great deal.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the
I bought it.
blend. I don't know if we've seen that.
Yeah.
I can't,
And you can
think of who else has
beautifully
that.
crush stuff with that, and or do what I do, which is just put it in the final mix before sending something.
that what you do?
Oh
Very-
yeah,
the very
and just
end?
sweeten it, kind of tighten things up a bit. Look at meters, seeing where things are happening, and
So you talked about off camera, we were talking about Spitfire Audio, and there's a lot of those patches and libraries that you use. When you're doing digital stuff for kids, it must be great to be able to put it through this and this and this and
sure.
that.
so often.
Right?
I'll finish a cue, especially orchestral stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that they do. It's so beautifully processed, so
Right.
gorgeously
Yeah.
EQ'd, that it doesn't need a whole lot of processing.
Right.
And it's a bit of it's overkill. And
Right.
every time I have found myself doing it, I have to ask myself ultimately why I'm doing
Right.
it, because they've done
it, yeah.
It's amazingly done. So if you want that effect, but for the most part, you don't need it.
Really?
Especially for TV stuff, because and you also, it's like, hey, I had to write 22 minutes of music in 4 days.
Right.
Not a whole lot of time to
Yeah.
dick around with a compressor, You got to get stuff out the
Oh,
door.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So tell me about the Burl, the B2 Bomber, because I do see it online. People talk about it.
Yeah.
Is it a converter? What is it?
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. A lot of material that I'm putting, if I'm doing single instruments or a couple of overheads and stuff or whatever, if I'm recording something in stereo, I'll often use that for my conversion.
Okay.
Because the guy who designed it used to work at Universal Audio, and he built this one. I can't remember which one he built, but it was very expensive, highly sought after, and he went, oh, these guys aren't willing to do an 8-unit converter, because they don't think anybody wants to spend that much. And so he makes these things called motherships, and they're just crazy. 16 by 16 is probably like 18 grand. It's crazy. But people love it because, and a lot of people who, particularly coming from the tape world, say for the first time, they're really satisfied with digital.
Wow.
So there's a big transformer in this thing. So the way I understand it is audio comes in, it's not just converted, it goes through this transformer and then gets converted. So it is a fairly dark unit. I know someone like Brian Moncar's, great mix engineer, he still uses this, and you can hit it really hard at the input level. So what that input is doing is it's hitting the transformer. And I mean, for the first time ever, and the word is used too often, actually gluing a track together, that thing really does make you stand back and go, that did something that I didn't do.
No way.
Yeah, and
so how does it work into your workflow here?
I'll patch it into the desk and use it for conversion, and then the final stage, I'll have my entire mix go through the TK, possibly the curve bender, and the mastering curve bender version I have, and that burl. Sometimes depending on the material, it's too dark, and I don't want to have to start adding sweetener after the fact. So I just don't use it on about a quarter of what I do, but for the most part, 3/4 of the material goes through that, and it sounds amazing.
And can you use it on its own without the converter? Like go in through the transformer and then back out?
No.
Okay.
And if you can, it's because I don't know that.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure
We'll
it's
overdub
all
the
tied.
truth.
I'm sure it's all tied together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's, Jay, can we go over here? Okay, so Tim, talk to me a little bit of this. I have no idea what I'm looking at here.
These are Audax mic pre's and EQs made by obviously the Audax company out of England.
Okay.
And the story behind these are when the BBC would demand consoles from Neve in the 70s and they couldn't keep up with that demand, they would have the guys at Audax, who were a lot of them ex-Neve designers and builders, build these to the same architecture that the Neve consoles they were looking for. And so these are similar to the Neve 114s.
Okay, and they're pre's as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they very low noise and an enormous amount of headroom. Ridiculous gain on them. I think primarily used for broadcast and then recommissioned for music later on. And then the bunch of guys in the States bought these consoles up, pulled them out, and racked them. This was racked by and I wish I remembered his name. He's out of London, does a lot of incredibly good work. Everybody
I love the
knows
case
him.
and everything.
Yeah,
It looks great.
power supply is beautifully restored.
Incredible.
These are gorgeously restored. The pots are all
This
closed.
kind of stuff is great because this just doesn't come up often. You're probably the only one in the city with something like this.
Yeah, I got it off a guy off of All Buttons In, Eric Warren, great guy, and all the pots are closed, and it's just not gonna fail for a long time. You maintain this stuff.
What do you use them for?
I use it a lot of vocals, a lot of acoustic guitars, a lot of crunch guitars. The EQs are pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
It takes a while to actually get them to engage, but it's amazing.
And then up here,
Couple
more
of Neve
your
clones.
favorite brand here.
Yeah, Neve clones, these LTD ones.
These are great.
Yeah, and
All this stuff is
powerful
so
EQ, very
nice
powerful
and
EQ.
cool.
So obviously based on 1073, but with a much more in-depth EQ, more control with them, and just
the
a
pre's down
really
here, right?
nice, pillowy, beautiful sounding pre. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So cool.
Yeah. So I had those sent down when I got them. Bought them both used around Toronto and had them sent down to Chandler, and they were really super cool, and they got them as close to match as they could.
Oh,
Because I
great.
was thinking, it'd be great to be able to just not use the pre, use CQs on a mix. So
How do you do that? Is there just
have
a
them-
setting with the just a line?
Yeah, let's go to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then this up here, I mean, The branding of it looks kind of familiar.
It's Amic, and it is based on the 1998 console that they made. And I think it was one of the last things that Rupert was really involved with Amic. And it's beautifully designed, very clean mic pre and EQ.
And EQ, yeah.
Powerful EQ, and
I wonder if that's kind of in line with what the new stuff that they're making. You know, the new channels that they're making.
I don't know. Oh, you mean Rupert's stuff?
Rupert's stuff,
I don't know. I know the new stuff is phenomenal.
Yeah.
This sounds really great.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people didn't dig it because they went Amic,
Yeah.
and it's super clean. You know, it is one of those things where it came out, it was kind of expensive, and I think it just got a bad name for no reason, and now you can find them for under $1,000.
Wow!
And they were, to my ears, they're worth more than that.
I'm really curious about this Heritage Audio piece.
Great,
Is this
guys.
brand new?
Yeah,
They just came out with this line.
they came out with
like a couple weeks ago?
cheaper version of it.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember what it's called, like the Hollywood Elite or something like that. But
okay.
It looks exactly like it, but. You know, and they're saying we're same, you know, with little less expensive components. I don't know if it's one of those things where a company could somehow save money by using a lot of the same materials, but just have it like assembled in Korea.
Right, and high numbers.
But
because I was curious.
The price difference between that and this line is it's about a third, and I just don't believe that it's the same components.
Right.
The same.
I would be so curious because I mean they're doing versions of these for like $6.99.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they
I'm really curious.
Those I use all the time.
Yeah. And this is just pre's, right?
Just pre's. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to have a nice stereo pair connected too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, for sure.
If you
especially
run
now
like
with like the Townsend mic, which requires you to have two very totally matched pre's, and the nice step control is great because stuff like that's really great.
Yeah.
And having stereo microphones, I have that.
Or stereo microphones, or like a stereo keyboard going in, or anything direct like that. I've seen this a few times. This is kind of a popular piece
People,
too, right?
people love it on drums. I bought it off Brian Moncar's, and
more pre's.
J.R. Robinson, he uses it in his home studio exclusively for his drums. Kenny Aronoff is using that in his home space. So a lot of these guys, these drummers are like, hey, send me your tracks and I'll do the drums for you.
Yeah, totally.
So they have these really powerful small rigs set up.
That's smart.
That's
smart system.
And that's a great, I use that almost, I think I only use that on drums. I should try other things through it.
This is a great piece here. I wish they made a two-channel version.
Yeah.
It's priced out a little bit high, and 4 is a bit much for me.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
Like
I guess then you get these 500
I
series
know. But I do like this rack mount version. Yeah. Talk to me about this here. This is a cool looking piece.
So there's this fantastic audio engineer, builder, restorer, designer, artist, sweetheart of a guy by the name of Stuart Whitby, and he runs Whitby Audio in the West End, further west than this, Mimico. And he's kind of a lunatic when it comes to audio. He's incredibly particular, very, very generous with his time and his materials. And he will build you something like this. So he had these Sony preamp modules from the MXP 3000 console, 80s console.
Right.
They were nothing to write home about, but they were certainly very usable preamps. And he went in and said, let me try and improve on the design. Builds these enclosures, put Sauter transformers in each one of them. And it's, I brought it in and I compared it to the API.
Yeah.
I had drums already mic'd up in the room. And I just swapped them out and I went, they sound different, but they're incredibly good.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, ridiculous amount of gain if you need it.
What is this ratio here?
So this basically boosts the gain from 1 to 2, so it doubles it almost.
Oh,
and then you have even more gain through this.
Wow.
Yeah. No,
and what's
Phantom.
Oh, Phantom.
Yeah. I'm a fan.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Does it have a power supply or is it just one unit?
That is it doesn't have a separate power supply. No,
okay.
He's built a power supply into it.
I got to get his info. So he'll just do custom stuff if you...
Very particular.
Yeah.
You know,
Does he have stock of
he's got
stuff?
a lot of stuff.
Okay.
One thing he had a lot of, or I don't know if it was given to him or whatever. I know he does a lot of stuff with Ward Beck.
Oh, okay.
And particularly McCurdy stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He was back in the day. I mean, I don't know what his origins are. I know that he was part of the whole Toronto, you know, when the city had big studios like Manta and Sounds Interchange. He was one of those guys who just sat there just restoring and building and maintaining gear.
Yeah.
So he has all these old Harrison modules from a console that ABBA used, and Bruce Swedidian, who mixed all Michael Jackson stuff.
Nice.
So I have a rack, 3-space rack mount with 2 pre's and EQs in it from that console that he lovingly, gorgeously restores, and just it just sounds amazing.
It's great.
Yeah.
I like the look of it too.
Yeah.
It's clean. Sorry, Jay. All right, let's head into this room here. Jay, are we okay to just roll in here?
Yeah.
Just real quick, there's a couple things in here I want to talk about. Talk to me about this mic a little bit. I've heard of them a little. I think I maybe saw an ad, but I'm not too familiar at all.
Well, this is a Russian-made microphone by a company called Soyuz.
Okay.
And this is their SU-017 model. It's a tube microphone. And it was one of those moments where I thought, I really want to get a tube microphone. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of people making great 47 chords out there, like Flea and Wonder.
Yep.
And this, you know, aesthetically caught my eye.
Totally.
And then I thought, well, you know, they're not in Toronto. How are you going to hear this thing?
Right.
Call down to Vintage King. Talk to a guy who I actually have gotten to know over the last year or two, or a couple of years, and he was very honest about, you know, shootouts. And they did a shootout in a beautiful studio in Malibu called the Woodshed.
Okay.
And this mic sounded unbelievable. Great. It sounded even unbelievable when they first started the shootout and the capsule was backwards.
No way.
So you unscrew this thing, and because the front and the back kind of look, they put it back together. The hilarious thing about that is, I didn't find that out until I read the article in Tape Op. That happened to me.
No.
I was checking the tube, and I was like, man, that mic's starting to sound a little funky, man. I don't know. And an engineer friend came in and said, hey, man, that mic's backwards. And I went, what do you mean? He goes, well, I kind of just sort of spoke into the back. And it still sounded good. I mean, it was still sounding really good. But I was just picking up the back through. So it was up against, you know, all the usual suspects, and including vintage Telefuncans and stuff like that. Sylvia Massey uses these. She calls them modern classics.
Okay.
Amazing on vocals. I got a chance to finally, because you get that bee in your bonnet, you're like, did I make the right choice?
Yeah.
Should I have gotten the Flea? So I got a chance to check it out against a Flea recently.
Yeah.
And the 3, me, another engineer, and the guy who owned the Flea, we all agreed that this one actually sounded better.
Oh, great. Where does it rank in price with Flea and Wonder and vintage stuff?
Oh, well, the Wonder stuff's nuts.
Is it?
It's like $7,000.
Oh, okay.
These are all about 4 and change.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
that's about what you expect to pay, I think. Yeah.
And they have Omni capsules. I think they're about $700. You unscrew that, put the Omni on, but it's cardioid.
That's great.
And and then this is the most exciting.
Yeah.
This mic stand. Okay, this is my Latch King. Or Latch Lake, and it's Latch King. I keep calling it Latch Lake. Yeah, Latch King. Oh man, I don't know. Anyway, you buy a mic like this. What are you gonna do? Throw it on a Yorkville stand?
Yeah, exactly. Lots of sandbags.
I have a couple of Coles.
Totally.
I know. Even with sandbags, you're like, somebody's gonna kick that thing.
Yeah.
This thing's. I really. Not too many things really get my joint jumping. When this thing showed up, I felt like I was like on a film set in Sesame the Mill Time, and it's beautiful. And it weighs a ton, and you can put your mic wherever the hell you want it. It's so killer.
I actually borrowed a 47 from a buddy. It wasn't a it was a Palooza. It wasn't like a really expensive one, but they're really good. And I wanted it up over the piano player's head. Yeah. And I was using a Yorkville stand, and I had to take a 50-foot cable on the back and tie it to the back to weigh it down. Yeah. And even then, it was just tipping over.
Yeah. But even like the bar itself or the stand, this all feels like it's going to cough up blood at any point in time.
The annoying part is that stands like this cost what a cheap 47 costs.
This thing costs like $600.
That's
$650.
I mean, that's crazy. That's a cheap knockoff 47 mic.
But
you could break cheap knockoff mics.
Look,
on a
they made me
bass kit 3 times.
It got me so hot. I bought a second one because I bought an AEA 44.
Oh, yeah.
So
you
and
need
those things
something,
weigh, come on, it's a boat anchor.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not throwing that thing on, and
It's good.
it's great. So you put these two above a drum kit, paracools. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about anything.
Well, you know what? Even
And I'll
though
have them
there's-
forever.
Yeah, and it is good to have 2 because
Yeah.
you're right. When you have 2 of the same thing, it's cool.
Great company, great guys. Get them out of Montreal.
That's great. Well, I'll have to look into it. Yeah, I remember thinking I should probably get something sturdy. First of all, I love everything here. This is actually my favorite 6 feet of the whole studio. I love what you've done with these. I think, are these IKEA? They look stained.
Okay, so the IKEA is holding up all the booze out there. Those are $19 a piece. These are solid cherry to match the diffuser. To match this. Yeah, so this is, again, when I told the studio designer builder that I was going from Audio Space, Mark Hunziger, Audio Space, that I'm going to IKEA. He went, no, absolutely not. He refused. So these are custom. Yeah, these are
almost matches the mug as well.
It's just a little gross. It's a little gross.
I love this. This is a great idea. Like, I got to figure out how I can do this. Although I only have like 4 pedals, but there is so much cool stuff here. You could buy one of those mic stands you're talking about, or you could buy a Big Sky here.
Oh, those Big Skies are expensive.
So you've got the Strymon stuff. Mm-hmm. Before we dive into this thing here and this beautiful baby here, why do you have this stuff? I mean, how important is it for you to have stuff for artists to come in here and have?
Excellent question. Okay, so a portion of these are mine. A bunch of them are also, a lot of the Strymon stuff actually belongs to again, I think I mentioned him earlier, Derek Downham.
Okay.
Record producer, incredible musician.
Mm-hmm.
And again, these are tools where, if you need to get something on a tape, you don't want to piss about.
Yeah,
people are coming in, they've hired you as a producer, they want options, they want to know they're going to get the best sound. And if you know your stuff, then you're going to spend the dough to grab stuff like that, especially that, or the union stuff, or this fuzzy boy stuff.
Well, sorry to interrupt, a lot of musicians aren't rich.
No, man, everyone's busted.
And to own 3 of these, it's silly. So for them to come and go, oh, finally, like, I know how to I board my buddies, I know how to get this sound.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Nice.
This is the one, the band comes in and everything. This is kind of like the Drool station. This is where they come and they go, oh my God, that's like a late 60s, 200A Wurlitzer. Oh my God, that's a real move.
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate that I over the years just went, I'm going to try that out. I'm going to grab that. Yeah. Being a tone freak, I always wanted to make sure I could kind of like grab whatever sound I want. And then, it becomes also like, it's brilliant actually how in the world of boutique stuff, like all these paint jobs, because there's also that thing that happens where you're collecting the box.
Oh, I know. They're playing cards.
Yeah. And
what is this?
That's the Ass Master, the Bass Master, based on what is it? I got some vintage 60s or 70s fuzz.
So great.
The Bass Master, and it's a terrific.
Yeah, actually, I don't recognize a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, well, this is
pretty cool.
This is all done by what's his name? Oh shit, I can't remember.
The
Fuzz
same
Factory guy. Zevex.
Yeah.
So the super hard-on great pedal. This was the pedal used primarily by Queens of the Stone Age on Songs for the Deaf.
Oh wow.
And this guy makes amazingly interesting, cool stuff.
Yeah, they really do.
And if there's vintage Mutron, the sound of Bootsy.
I love the union stuff. What are these ones here?
High quality Canadian made stuff. This is Jack White's Fuzz. Mm-hmm. This is their Tone Druid, which is a really subtle gain pedal, and it's kind of like the super hard on. Well, it sort of pushes your amp naturally, but also adds its own kind of overtone and saturation. Yeah. And their lab pedal is a opto compressor, slow compressor, much like an LA2A or an LA3A.
I've heard about this. I didn't know this was the one.
It's fantastic on guitar. I bought it on a recommendation by an engineer friend who
They're so beautiful.
Yeah,
too.
and he just said, this thing sounds amazing. Beyond guitar, throw vocals through it.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you mix with any of this stuff?
I don't.
Something like that? Or?
Yeah, because that's an extra cable
Yeah.
and a few
No, I know
extra
what you
minutes.
mean.
I know. I should
know what you
really
mean,
dig
yeah.
in and go, yeah, I'm going to try that.
Yeah. But then, you know what? It's so much fun to do this
Yeah.
when you're mixing, but at the same time, the Sound Toys guys
That stuff's so
do a
killer.
lot of that stuff.
But this is way more fun. And if you're doing a record, do this.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I wish, yeah.
I love Fairfield. We got to shout out to these guys, Fairfield Circuitry, the Quebec guys. I have one of their. Oh, this looks very early.
Yeah, I think
Like
it's
a
an older
prototype
one.
or something.
That's an older one. They changed this.
What is this, like a drive?
That is the, and it has that sag control, so you
Oh,
can,
okay.
it emulates. What is this one? This is the camera. What
Doesn't even have a name on it.
Yeah, what does that say?
OD overdrive.
There you go,
612.
CDOD.
This is an early model. It's probably worth a lot of money. I have their fuzz. I can't remember what it's called, but the description online says it's the equivalent of getting your arm caught in a reciprocating saw.
The beautiful thing about this guy
very
is
true.
when you open it up, I open it up, change the battery.
Yeah.
They include like a plastic set of false teeth that were like gnarly and horrible. It's like, oh yeah, that's.
Do you
what it
run
sounds
this
like.
through
Yeah.
this stuff?
Yeah, it's funny too because when I first got this, this is the reissue.
Right.
I shouldn't call it a reissue because they just pretty much put it back into.
It's not. It's gone now.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
put it back into. They were manufacturing them exact to the same specs as the original, so they just started just making it again.
Right. Yeah.
I was working on a movie at the time. I just had no time to play with it, but
Yeah.
I would come by and I'd turn. It was always plugged in, and I had it through a few effects, and I would just sit there and just make sounds and go, God, I don't have time for this. I got to work on. And you
I do the
literally
same
can
thing.
get lost in this, but you really get lost when you start putting it through effects.
Oh.
Because I mean,
Like
it just
something
changes.
like this, or
Yeah,
do a delay.
it just
you're right.
changes. It becomes an entirely different animal.
I mean, this thing alone, you have millions of options of
Yeah.
sound. And then once you go through, it's just, you're right. It's endless.
Yeah.
And,
And
it's
then-
so
and
much
then
fun. I don't know why
it's-
people play video games.
I don't know.
They can just play with this.
Texturally, you can do so much and add so much to your tracks with the combination of these two guys.
Well, I wonder how many they made because we were just at Dreamhouse and Alex was saying that he wasn't going to get one, and then he knew that they discontinued them
Yeah.
and the stock was running out. And it's kind of like, get in now, because in 20 years people are going to say, where are these? Who has them?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. I don't
It's great.
know if they made a whole ton of them.
Well, I think they only made them for about a year
Yeah.
to two, and now they've said they've stopped.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got to stop saying this too often, but this is one of my favorite studios we've been to.
Wait, hold on. Close the door. Can you close the door?
I can
Move
try.
the stuff out of the way. This is what it is. Feel the door.
Hold on.
Feel it.
I feel it.
It's not. Just let it go though. Be more elegant. Move that stuff out of the way. There's an effortlessness to the guy who built the studio. He's a master door hanger guy.
You want me to just
let it go. Let it go.
No, you don't want to push it.
Give it a little push.
A little push.
Well, that's a little too little. It's
Okay.
not electronic. Give it a nice. That was so anticlimactic.
We're gonna cut all of this.
But give it a real push.
Yeah.
That's like a good.
You can
car.
feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
Yeah. That was
It's
the one thing.
quieter.
Eddie Kramer, by the way, he was here.
Really?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago. So he's
Oh,
using.
I think I saw
he's
that on
using
your
this
website
guy.
or somewhere, yeah.
He's using this guy.
No way.
So,
What was he
he's-
doing here?
He was looking at studios because he's doing the Elma Combo.
Oh.
So they're making Electric Ladyland, the Elma Combo, and he came in, and yeah, love the space, love the sound of these ATCs. We haven't talked about these speakers are mind-bogglingly good.
What are they called?
ATCs, the 25s. Oh, these are kind of becoming pretty industry standard.
Are they
you know,
your
you see a
mains?
lot of Barefoots.
Yeah.
I listen to Barefoots. Barefoots are super scoop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right.
hyped. That three-way, that mid-range is
Oh, right.
the amount of information that you get out of that. And I've heard guys complain, it's a little harsh. It's not harsh. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Although Jeremy Darby of Canterbury, he says I can't mix on them. I can track on them
Yeah.
because I can hear every slight change I make to a microphone placement.
Right.
But he said I can't mix on them. I didn't ask him why. But,
Is that what you use primarily?
yeah,
Those?
I'll go to the K&H's for really, for
Yeah.
second set.
Yeah.
And they have great. Their imaging is fantastic on the K&Hs, particularly when I'm like doing anything that requires like voiceover on top of it.
I'm surprised you don't have like a little 26-inch Toshiba
should.
TV where all kids are watching your hearing your music.
Yeah.
To reference.
No
With
kidding.
your mom screaming in the background. No, this is really a great place. I love the toys you have. We have very similar aesthetic appreciation, and I think this is it's formal but it's also very cozy and welcoming. I love it a lot, and I love that it's
and it changes so much when like at night.
Right,
Just the vibe,
and with seasons
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're pretty hidden once the trees
it's
grow in.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure.
It's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Great
Thanks
place.
for coming out.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I had a great time.
Thanks, Jay.